Hi, this is Gary Jones, and you're listening to The Secrets of Stargate. Chevron 7 locked.
Hi, I'm Jack Baruzzini, and you're listening to The Secrets of Stargate, where we talk about the hidden meanings and deeper layers found in the Stargate movies, TV series, and more. And joining me today are Father Cory Sticha. Hi, Father.
Howdy, Jack.
And Lisa Jones. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Jack.
And Victor Lambs. Hey, Victor.
What up, Gators? That's my new greeting, my new tagline. Figured we're past 100 episodes. You know, we can switch it up a little bit.
Switch it up.
Yeah.
Hey, Jack. Going back to the 2000s?
Yes.
Yeah. This episode is tight.
It's tight.
So
Today
whack.
Trying to think of other outdated words for cool now.
It's fresh.
Fresh.
It could be dope or hype.
I could think of some of the current ones, but I've gotten to the age now where I don't understand the slang that people use. So
yeah, I've definitely fallen off.
Yeeted. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's mid.
Dab. When a civilian's today we are discussing the 17th episode of season 5, Failsafe.
Is that what we're doing?
Apparently. When a civilian spots what he believes to be a giant asteroid heading towards Earth and is convinced by the U.S. military to keep it quiet, SG-1 is tasked with stopping the asteroid within 11 days and 16 hours. But their attempts to seek help from the Tok'ra and the Asgard are unsuccessful. They ultimately decide to plant a nuclear warhead on the asteroid, but encounter several obstacles along their way. That's pretty much the whole episode, including a failed engine and a cave-in. Upon landing on the asteroid, they discover that it is made almost entirely of Naquadah and must conclude that it was launched by the Goa'uld to appear as a natural disaster to destroy Earth. They manage to disarm the bomb manually, open a hyperspace window, and divert the asteroid by driving it through the Earth in subspace. But they accept their fate as the ship's engines and life support fail. At the very last minute, a Tok'ra ship shows up to pick them up. Yep. I know from our conversation before we started recording that this is one of your favorite episodes, Father Cory.
Oh, yes. Take every disaster movie ever made and put them together and put them on space. And throw in a little dash Armageddon, which, of course, are referred several times. No, this is definitely not my favorite episode. This feels so much like, and it was written by Joseph Malazzi and his writing partner. I wish we would have asked, why did you do this? Why did you inflict this on us?
I read that it was mainly Paul Mully who wrote this one,
Mm-hmm.
that at this point they were kind of alternating. I have a little bit different take, but I'll wait to share my thoughts.
So it feels like they had more in their CGI budget than they did in their actually shooting on set budget. And so they put more money into the CGIs, which not for the time was not bad, not at all. But the storyline kind of disappeared in the process. So
yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat with you on that. What about you, Lisa?
I think this is a fun one. They call it out that they're rehashing all these, I think 1998 was the big year for asteroid movies, Deep Impact and Armageddon. And it's like they're calling out that they're referencing it and they're having fun with it. But at the same time, it stays true to the plot and the characters. And you got a lot of Jack quippy moments and fun, let's go save this. And everything goes wrong, which you got to love. And it's going to be good at the end of the day. And then, there's curveballs and I don't know. It's lighthearted. It's fun. To me, it's like your Planet of the Week episode.
So got a panel divided.
Yeah. And online, the votes are actually in support that this is a really good one.
Interesting.
Yeah, I really like this episode too. If I had to put on an episode, this would be just, a standalone episode. This would probably be up there in my list. And it is fun. It's cheesy. but it's just the way they ramp up the progression of things going wrong is just like so perfect. It's like they come up with a solution for one problem, but then the next problem happens. Richard Dean Anderson, Jack has some of his best lines in this. There's some good like comedy bits, repeated, comedy bits between Daniel, Jack, and Teal'c. Sam gets to be, brilliant in this episode. And I like how it fits into the greater continuity of the show as well. In the last episode, we learned that Anubis was planning to attack Earth in a way that wouldn't necessarily violate the treaty. And in this episode, we see how they do that. And as it turns out, the method that the Goa'uld used to bring the asteroid into our solar system, and finding out that it wasn't in from our solar system was because the core was made of Naquadah, which Sam found out because the gravity was wrong. So there's this whole it fits together. Is the way that they use to save Earth. They create a hyperspace window to send the asteroid through. So I like that. So it fits into the continuity there. And next season is when we start to see, no spoilers here really, but the Earth doesn't have a spaceship, basically. And that's to get a spaceship.
Spoiler.
To get a spaceship, they need to go to, the planet from a couple episodes ago or last episode. And get that spaceship, which maybe they should have done that already, if they knew that there was a spaceship there they could have. But And I don't know. That's the part I don't know that works. You have to see the asteroid when it's far enough out that it's plausible that everybody wouldn't have seen it. But how do you kill 10 days? Well, you have to get a ship, and so the timeline in this doesn't really work. But as an episode itself, I really like it. I like the comedy, and it's just a fun, doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's kind of just a fun episode there.
Yeah, I'm with Father Cory on this. It just felt I know there was a plot, but it didn't really feel like there was a plot. It just felt like things kept happening, but there wasn't really much of a progression between them. And I kind of feel like the actors weren't really interested in the plot. And I know Daniel kind of played that character just like being bored. And I don't even know why they sent him, honestly, because there's no languages to translate on an asteroid. But I don't know. It just felt boring to me, honestly.
I was going to say, at some point, Carter asked Daniel to like override something with the engines or whatever. And I was like, oh, does Daniel know how to do that now? But it really agreed to see Jack and Daniel and even Teal'c didn't have a whole lot to do, fixing the ship. So it was kind of fun, though, to see like Jack staring at the lights and Daniel reading a book and, just.
Yeah, reading a book.
Yeah.
Kind of questionable what that book was when he's turning it sideways and looking at it. Oh,
yeah, exactly. Schematics. It was schematics for the ship.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's a Star Trek technical manual.
Yeah, there you go.
You got to turn those sideways to get the full fold out of the ship sometimes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the magazines that they didn't end up using for the magazines that Jack was going to give to the homeless guy.
It was a National Geographic. Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
He was looking at a fold out with a Serengeti.
Yes.
I think that was part of my problem with it, was that so you have this potentially world-ending disaster, and there's no sense of urgency.
Yeah, I mean, that's the part I also didn't think worked, was like, General Hammond, we're getting people off to the Alpha site, and you're like, of course Hammond isn't going to give up, the SGC, so there's that's just manufactured drama there. But I do like, prior, to our comments earlier in a previous episode, Major Davis being Major Disaster, because whenever he shows up, things go from bad to worse.
And he's the one that says they've died. There's no chance of. I mean, he seems to always be the one that gives them that final. There's no way.
Yeah. Well, there's one good thing. Walter got to go through the Stargate.
That's true.
Yeah.
You don't see it on screen, but he goes.
Yeah, because he's there.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we finally have the Alpha site.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
This is a hard one, because there's the ticking clock, and it's a long ticking clock. This isn't 24 hours or something like that. You've got a week and a half to solve this problem.
Well, thank goodness they didn't show us them just sitting around on the ship for like the 8 days it took to travel or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I did like the fact that it wasn't just up to SG-1 to fix the cargo ship. They actually brought in other people to do it. That was believable.
They brought in Spellman.
Yeah. Well, and if you thought about it, Daniel probably shouldn't have been there. He probably should have been one of the people leading for the Alpha site and kind of coordinating things there. And one of those nerds should have been the ones that was there trying to help Sam fix the ship. Maybe they would have got it fixed well enough that they didn't have half the problems.
I feel like that would have been more interesting, and also throw in like a different element in there, someone who's not really been on any missions before, and have them have to deal with that. Like, I don't know.
You get that next season as well. One of my favorite episodes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I did like Spellman's like, you know what this thing does, how it violates the laws of physics. And they just push him in.
Yeah.
Sure, that violated some workplace safety something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Killing your coworkers by deatomizing them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Involuntarily killing.
And,
we didn't worry about that in the early 2000s.
and if you watch slight spoilers for Picard, there's good reason why you don't want to use the transporters. Let's just put it that way.
Okay. Yeah. Barclay was right.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So
for me, it's hard to pinpoint what I didn't like about this episode. It didn't feel cohesive, I guess was it. But as always, the humor was good, and the show does a really good job of lampshading the fact that this episode is basically a lot like the movie Armageddon, because you get Jack saying, "I've seen this movie. It crashes in Paris."
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that was good.
I mean, it's a whole genre. I mean, every show will do like a heist episode at some point. They'll do, an investigation episode or like a sleuthing episode, and then some will even do like, disaster movie episodes. And in a disaster movie, I mean, you have the thing that kind of sets it off, which is, an asteroid's gonna hit Earth, a cruise ship is capsized, a building's on fire, an airplane has been hijacked, and there has to be complications along the way. So it's a genre piece. There's audience expectations. Things are going to be okay at the end, and it's really just another vehicle to put your, no pun intended, to put your main cast into to see how they handle the challenge. Which is why I don't have a problem that it was the 4 members of SG-1, because it's fun to see them all together doing their witty banter with each other as they solve problems. And Jack and Teal'c just look so adorable in those uncomfortable spacesuits.
Oh yeah,
with their arms like.
Did y'all notice that? So Sam and Daniel are stuck in the escape pods, right?
Yep.
Yep.
So when they repressurized the cabin, they changed before they let them out.
Yeah.
Oh.
So how long did that take to get those suckers off?
Yeah.
But you think about it, right? Like they should have,
yeah.
And maybe it was just for the scene, but I just thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Like,
that
leave them in there a little longer.
Yeah, it's like I could see where they hit the button to reactivate the air, the life support, and then get undressed. But it's like no, it looked like he was just kind of standing around and like, okay, I can let him out now.
Yeah.
Might as well grab a sandwich,
Yeah.
There was some weird science in here. And some of it, they hang the lampshade on. It's like, don't worry about there not being gravity on the asteroid because it's mainly iron. And so your magnetic boots will stick right to it. If they had just walked out on the asteroid, somebody would have said, hey, wait a minute, they should be floating off into space. But, I don't know if that explanation really works. But
let's even talk about the crash that wasn't. I mean, like the ship is looking like it's going to crash, going to nosedive right in plant. All of a sudden it hits the parking brakes and does
they
perfect
needed
landing.
a brake sound, like a Bugs Bunny, like when the airplane like stops.
Yeah, and just parks nose down,
because the crater was there.
But why did the ship just land without them telling it to land?
Once the velocity was slow enough, the landing anti-gravity thing would kick in. They had to fire the thrusters, and
they never said a word about that. Because they were firing the thrusters the whole time and they didn't stop it.
Well, I mean, how does any spaceship land, right? I mean, if SpaceX can land on a barge, I have no problem with
because they have a
Cargo
rocket
ship.
that does it. Watch it. It's cool.
Yeah.
No, that was just kind of one of those they did. Okay, well, so assume the spaceship actually lands. Now what? Now we just move on.
Well, I guess they were wanting to make it look like they crashed so that Earth would think they died.
Yep.
So they, just make it happen for plot.
That's basically it.
Right. I'm not an astrophysicist and I could be completely wrong about this, but I feel like if the asteroid is actually much more dense than it appears to be, there'd probably be some way to tell that based on its orbit as it's coming towards Earth.
I don't know.
It was a very weird orbit because it was basically launched like in the solar system. Probably didn't even enter the solar system. It was probably like brought most of the way towards Earth. And
well, what they said was that it was off the plane of the solar system.
Mm-hmm.
So it was coming off from a regular orbit. So
it was like that interstellar object that came through the solar system a couple of years ago, the Oumuamua or whatever it was called.
Ouroboros. But it was. I think you were right.
Maybe that was a gold probe.
Yeah,
could be
coming out of your blind spot, coming in out of the sun.
What did y'all think about getting the Asgard help out of the way first off in the episode?
Yeah.
It was fun to see the Asgard Council again. It was kind of a wasted appearance by them, but
yeah.
And I was expecting them to circle back on all that, like have the Asgard come in once they discovered that it was made of mostly Naquita and was obviously planted there. I feel like it would have been better if they kind of tied that back in and had the Asgard come and deal with the asteroid and then have that lead into, okay, so the Goa'uld are breaking the treaty surreptitiously.
I don't know. I kind of like how the Asgard didn't step in last minute for once. And I like the explanation. It's like, well, now we can call the Asgard, right? Well, our radio's broken and a radio signal would take, how many years to reach them.
Yeah.
But
it was fun to see the team save themselves for once. They saved themselves and then the Tok'ra
shows up after the last second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I guess, I don't know if they've ever really talked about how their faster than light technology works, but I guess it kind of dematerializes you a bit and makes you massless. And that's how they were able to.
It takes you out of regular space, right? Or you mean the
kind
hyperspace?
Of like a warp bubble, but then moves you into the hyperspace.
Yeah.
Subspace, something,
takes
whatever.
you out of normal space and puts you into hyperspace where you can move faster because you're hyper.
And you don't interact with normal matter, I guess. I'm probably overthinking the technology.
So see, on the original asteroids, there was a button called hyperspace. And if you push the button that was called hyperspace, you disappeared and you appeared someplace else. And so if an asteroid was coming right at you, you'd hit hyperspace and you'd be okay. And so I'm not saying asteroids was the inspiration for this episode, but this could have been called Asteroids, the show.
Yeah.
With an exclamation point.
Yeah.
Except for you didn't have the cool little triangle ship shoot. Actually, it was a triangle ship.
Yeah.
But there you go.
Yeah.
It is.
And was there a flying saucer that came by? That was probably the Tok'ra, right?
The mothership.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be the mothership.
Yeah, that launched the
because they look kind of like big flying saucers.
I did think the ship looked very similar to the individual fighter ships from Independence Day. It's got that same kind of shape, and that's a Roland Emmerich movie, and so is Stargate. So I don't know if that's intentional, but that's the first thing I thought of when I saw it. Yeah.
I did like the shot of Earth, from the asteroids, that they came back to and didn't always reuse the same shot there. I thought that was nice. Yeah.
And Jack can see his house. He's got really good eyesight, apparently.
Carter, I can see my house.
That was good.
Yeah.
And the asteroid sets are pretty good too. Visually, it was a good episode.
Mm-hmm.
I did like their poured, polyurethane foam walls on the asteroid and stuff. That was very.
Oh yeah. And the fake rocks, they got all the fake rocks from the Star Trek consoles and spread them out on the ground
from Wormhole Extreme, and they dropped them on the Maup.
Yeah. The keypad stopped working.
Yeah, I did just like how in the montage of them flying on the ship, how comfortable they are hanging out with the most powerful warhead ever designed by man.
Yep.
You know, everybody's just kind of curled up around it, like, you know, sleeping next to it. And
You know, one thing that you can kind of give credit is, you know, they show Anubis to be, you know, quite shrewd
Mhm.
because he
Yep.
knew that the Earth would try to, you know, do something with an explosion to get it, you know, out of orbit or get it out of the way of the Earth. And so he uses an asteroid that if you do that, you're actually going to make things far, far worse for the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
You know, so it does make him look a lot more shrewd than just, you know, the typical, I'm going to get
Yeah.
them, you know.
Yeah.
You're right. It
Yeah.
does set up Anubis for being what we're
Yeah.
going to see of him. Yeah, that he's not just
And-
he's not Apophis.
Yeah. And that the humans' own attempt to stop his plan is what would ultimately destroy them.
Mhm.
You know, there would be no humanity left because, you know, and no one could show up a few days later and grab some survivors from, you know, the rock or the, you know, the
Mhm.
ash and cloud and stuff. There would be a like actual singularity or black hole, like right
Yeah,
there, or mini supernova.
it'd go boom.
It'd be no more solar system. It got me thinking though, with all that Naquadah on there, I feel like since they were able to get it through the Earth, they don't really talk about how far they went. But I would assume they'd wanna like tow that in and harvest all that because it's a lot of Naquadah.
Yeah, it is. That was my thought too, but I don't know how fast it's moving. you
Yeah.
know, if they have a chance to catch up to it with their one dilapidated cargo vessel that they.
Which one of those movies was the one where they had the oil riggers and they
I think
drilled?
that
They
was
were
Armageddon,
drilling.
right?
It was
That's
Armageddon. So there you
Yeah.
go. There's your solution.
Yeah.
You grab those guys, send them up to the asteroid, and drill out some Naquadah.
I mean, they're talking about that in real life, towing asteroids into Earth orbit and then mining them. Because I think if there's like one in the solar system that has more precious metals than the entire Earth has in its entire crust. So,
Wow.
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, of course, that's been a thing of science fiction for forever. You know, you got The Expanse, you know, like a recent
Mhm.
example of that, where one of the factions is the Belters, and they are the miners who live out on the belt, you know, the asteroid belt. You know, so that's pretty common, and it makes sense. But yeah, this wasn't the story for that though.
No.
It is good to see have Sam take the lead on everything though, because it was fun to see how basically everybody else, like Jack and Daniel, were both just kind of baffled, and Teal'c just was silent. He took the smartest approach there and just like not going to comment. And
Yeah.
then Sam was the one that figured everything out. So it's good to have a Sam centric episode. I just wish the problems had felt more organic rather than just, all right, here's the problem, here's the problem, here's the problem, here's the
Yeah.
problem.
Like you've got a 1 in 5 chance of blowing yourself up by cutting wires. Oh, you got the right one. Okay, now you got a 1 in 4. Okay, now you got a 1 in 3,
Yeah.
1 in 2. And of course they do
Yeah.
where he's got the deadly one and then changes his mind and goes to the other
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. They were clearly having some fun with it. I mean,
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
and it was,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I was having fun watching it too. So, I mean,
Yeah. But isn't that, I mean, it's kind of, I was listening to our Malazi interview, you know, again, and it's funny because that's kind of one of the things he talked about when we asked him about what makes SG-1 or Stargate so long lasting, like the fandom. And it's
Mhm.
because they had fun with it. They
Mhm.
didn't take
Yeah.
themselves we've got enough serious sci-fi that this was kind of a bright spot. And I think this episode just revels in that. Like, you know what, we're gonna do this, and we're just gonna have fun with it. I mean, how many shows do you see where they have the wires, they all have to cut, and it never blows up, they always get it right? And
well, it's MacGyver. It's not going to
Yeah.
blow up.
It's true.
Now I will say this could very well be another one of these episodes that it's suffering from being in season 5
oh yeah.
because you know,
Yeah.
again, this was when
Yeah.
SG-1 was hitting its stride. I mean, it was at its stride.
Mhm.
These are some of the best episodes of the series are season 4, season 5 into season 6. And then we get this episode, which if you'd put this like season 1, season 2, or even season 9, season 10,
Oh yeah.
it might have been a much better episode by comparison.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to look at it, because it's not really, I guess it's not a bad episode. It's fine, but everything around it is so good, and there's been so much momentum building up and everything around it that this almost feels like hitting the brakes. And
Yeah. I mean, we get, Anubis's attack on Earth, which was teased, a couple episodes ago. And it does, Spellman, I guess, those were the guys. This is hard to pick up in the story, or at least it doesn't flow organically, but they're the ones who didn't find the recall device in the X301 and the 301, I guess, which is what sent Jack and Teal'c spinning into space.
Yep.
And so I do like how the continuity is actually checked for one this time.
Yeah, they call it out, where couldn't find one. Couldn't find the recall device. You guys were the ones who missed that.
But it was Jacob's shuttle, right? So he would have checked for that.
Yeah. Still,
probably.
it would make sense that they would check it still.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they did show, by the way, those shuttles do have bathrooms, so they solved that answer.
That was funny, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought they'd tell them to just go into the woods or something, but
yeah.
First priority,
Yeah.
Well, you think about it, that's, most sci-fi shows, they never talk about, eating is really only so they can show them sitting down and talking to each other, and never talk about showers and bathrooms, and so it's just kind of fun. It's kind of like 24. Remember that show that it happened in a 24-hour, but then he never had to go to the bathroom or do sleep or nothing, and so it was kind of funny to just throw the normalcy in there.
Well, and they're there for a week and a half, so you might want to have one of those.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember as a kid, I got this Millennium Falcon for Christmas, and it was like about this big. And when you opened it up, it was like a tin. It had a full map of the Millennium Falcon on the inside, and it had like where the bathroom was on the Millennium Falcon. And
oh, that's cool.
I always thought that was cool because I'd always wondered about stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the Star Wars universe lends itself to having a bathroom a lot better than the Star Trek one does, because every time, like on Deep Space Nine, they talk about like waste reclamation. It was always like the comical Ferengi who brought it up, right?
Yeah.
I may be misremembering, but I think Gene Roddenberry had a mandate that you couldn't show the bathroom on the Enterprise ever.
So they're just waiting until he died, and then they could talk about
you do eventually see bathrooms in the crew quarters on Enterprise D, but I mean, Dom and Jimmy would be the ones to talk about TOS, because I'm nowhere near as experienced in that as they are, but I don't think you ever hear of anything like a bathroom or something like that, But you do from later TNG and beyond. Yeah, there you go. Every time you transport, it empties your wastes for you.
Yeah, that's just.
It looks like a shrimp or something. So you can do it.
So what did y'all think about, I'm going to stop talking about waste, getting to see him and Frasier, and I thought it was kind of, I wonder why they brought Frasier in, honestly. I mean, I love her. I love seeing her, but
it was kind of,
but it was just kind of like she had that one little line, I guess, with him, and that I kind of liked talking about the Alpha site and, seeing the preparation to go through, because we've talked about it how many times that they need it. They keep talking about it, and now we're actually doing it. So
I feel like that would have been a more interesting angle to have. I would have liked if this episode had been more like 50-50. Like that could have been like a B plot, and then you have this as the A plot, just to see those preparations. And I don't know if they've talked about this before with the Alpha site, but it would be interesting to see them establish that as like an extra solar human colony, because you kind of do want to have people there, because if the Earth gets blown up without warning, then it doesn't matter if you have an Alpha site.
I think they have kind of talked about that was one of the places that they were using for research and stuff like that. So it could be like one of these things where, again, it is a colony, it's a research colony, but it's set up for if there is this, world-ending catastrophe or an attack, they can go there and establish the Alpha site. And
and I think y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. I think in later seasons and in Atlantis, we hear like they actually have an active alpha site
and a beta site too. I think,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the planet that they found, if I'm remembering this way back, but the first episode of Stargate Universe, the planet where they find the Destiny Gate, and they're doing, I think that is actually, they've set up like one of those research colonies there.
Yeah, because the people who get on the ship
Yeah.
are from the colony.
Yep.
Yeah.
They weren't supposed to be the ones to go in the first place.
Yep.
I just know that because I recently watched the first episode of Universe. I was like, I want to see how different it was, and it was different.
Yeah.
It gets more different as you go along.
I was like, I'll go back to SG-1. I like that.
Yeah.
I would still pick this episode over that episode of Universe I saw. I will say that.
There you go.
And
You
to
and
be
most
fair,
fans.
Yeah. To be fair, don't judge a book by its cover and don't judge a series by its first episode. But Universe has got some very rough edges.
Mm.
Yeah. I even say, give a show, and this is less the case now but if it takes a year to iron out the bugs in a show. So
even 4 or 5 episodes of the first season,
Yeah.
that can give you an idea where they're going. Now that being said, if you did that with TNG, you would end up with a couple of real stinkers. So
yeah,
Well, I mean,
TNG
that
took
was-
a couple more. Yeah.
That was the long term. That's like the rule of thumb for most Star Trek series: is the first 2 seasons aren't very good. That's kind of fallen off with. Well, I mean, with TOS, it's not, but Picard holds true with that. So
Yeah, it does.
Well,
yeah.
with streaming, it's very different too.
Yeah.
They're different
Mhm.
models. They're different. The length of the seasons is very different. So
They're
You don't
more
get
like
24
just 8-hour
episodes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's more like one long movie or 2
Mhm.
movies, in a 8 or 10-hour format.
Basically what we used to think of as miniseries.
Yeah.
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 So speaking of that, I think it's been recent. I know we talked about this with Joseph Malazzi on our interview episode, but I think it's been recently confirmed that Amazon is actively in development of a new Stargate show, and as far as we know right now, none of the old guard are involved, and so it's going to be interesting to see.
Nope.
the last names that were floated were the creators of The Expanse.
Mm.
So, which that could be a positive. I mean, because they did an excellent job on that series. Now that series is much more gritty than any of the Stargates are. So it'll be interesting to see if they're going to want to take more of a tone, assuming it's them, that they're going to want to take more of a tone like SG-1, or if they're going to want to take more of an Expanse type tone, which I hope they don't.
It'll be interesting because Joseph Malazzi was doing polls on Twitter a couple of weeks ago. I know I shared it with y'all, and that asking what you'd want to see, what long-term fans who are still hanging around, obsessing about Stargate like us, what do we want in a new show? And I thought that was really interesting in relationship to the news that he shared, that there is a development happening and that none of the original people are involved. So was he doing it to show, because he tagged Amazon and MGM, like, was he doing it to show them, look, this is what the fan base, if you want to keep us around, this is what we are interested in? Or just so he can, when they screw it up, he can be like, yeah, no.
I told you so.
You screwed it up.
I really hope that Amazon is looking at what's happened with Star Trek when Paramount Plus came out, and how Discovery is pretty much a dud. The first 2 seasons of Picard were a dud, but the fans have been loving the most recent season of Picard, which has legacy people working on it, and then Strange New Worlds, which I don't know if there's legacy people working on that, but they do the episodic, more light tone that is fun, and those have been the 2 most successful ones. And so I really hope that they're looking at that and being like, the people who are going to want to watch this show are the people who like the show for what it is. They don't want some gritty reboot with the name.
Well, not just you have those 2 series, but you also have Lower Decks, which is, it's humorous. It's a comic animated series, but it's done by people who love Star Trek and who loved the old series. And I think, and you're probably right that Joseph Malazzi was saying this is what the people want. They want the same kind of thing in the Stargate universe. They want to go back to the fun and, much as Mike grumble about this episode, the fun and the silliness that SG-1 could have.
And you can
And
watch
yet
with
still
your
have
family.
the serious plot. Yeah, you can watch it with your family and still have the serious plot points that they would have and stuff like that, and doesn't have to be this brutalistic, dark TV series. And I think that's kind of a hope for the TV as a whole, for TV as a whole, that they're starting to recognize that's like, no, the reason why people liked these shows back in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, because they were fun and we enjoyed them and we want to watch that kind of stuff. That hasn't changed.
Escapism, right?
Yeah.
I mean, real life could be kind of hard and dark sometimes and, struggle. So we watch TV a lot of times for that hope, redemption, escapism, to live outside of ourselves.
And I think the general TV landscape, like you said, Father, is kind of turning that direction. If you see, I know Game of Thrones is a really big hit, and that's a very dark, brutal series. And then I think the most recent, they made a spinoff of that, and I don't know if it's done very well. And a lot of these streaming services are having a lot of trouble actually becoming profitable because of they've just put out so much stuff and it's all felt kind of the same. So I think there is a reevaluation going on where I would be happy to see shows kind of move away from the season long gritty movie arc and even have a lower budget, because if the writing's good, it doesn't need to be $10 or $15 million per episode. That's not what people are watching for.
Well, it's interesting because, of course, recently, at least as we record this, recently the Super Mario Brothers movie came out, and it's just a fun movie.
Yeah,
it's just a lot of fun. And by the way, opening weekend it did almost $400 million worldwide.
It's the highest grossing video game movie ever. Yeah,
yeah, and one of the highest grossing. Actually, I think it is the highest grossing animated movie. I think Frozen 2 was before, and now this is, and it's just it wiped them off the map.
Nice.
That's what people wanted. People just wanted a fun movie with characters we enjoy. And it fit the bill.
Taking my 6-year-old on Saturday, so I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, yes. Yes. And we will do a Secrets of Movies and TV on it. If it hasn't come, I don't think it will have come out by the time this one does, but we will do one of those. So, of course, I'm going to have to do more research. I mean, go watch it again.
140 Mario Easter eggs you may have missed in the Super Mario.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I saw it with our kids who are 21 all the way down to 8, and so they all caught some different things. Yeah, it was that's the ice climber polar bear in 3 different shots. Yeah, really obscure stuff. So.
Anyways, back to this episode.
I was going to say, have we padded this out enough since we've pretty much talked about the show, the episode?
Yeah, I was going to ask, are there any good alternate language titles for this episode, Victor?
Most of them were along the line of fail safe or, safety limit. But in German, we get das Ende der Welt, which is the end of the world. So they're cutting right to the,
they're back.
Right to the chase. They're back.
Nice. That's a TV show episode about an asteroid destroying Earth really should have a German title. Just gives it that punch.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that.
Oh, and here's those old educational shorts you'd watch in school. They'd always end with a question, a discussion question for the class to discuss. So if you were the president, would you tell people that an asteroid was about to hit the Earth, knowing that it might cause a panic, but would give people a chance to settle their unfinished business in the few minutes they have left?
That is a good question. I mean, you know what's going to happen when you tell them. Utter chaos. So, but what is the morality of that? Is it immoral to not tell people they're all about to die?
Yeah, that's good. That is a good question. I should have thought more about that because that. Of course, the asteroid impact, I mean, assuming, it is Nakoda filled, so, I mean, that kind of changes the whole thing, but assuming it doesn't just crack the Earth open like an egg completely, there should still be time for people to get their affairs in order, for most people, especially since they were saying it was like Greenland is where it was going to hit.
Yeah.
And as it gets closer, you are going to see it. Like it's
Yeah.
someone's gonna get a telescope and spot it. But I'll throw it out there that as Christians, aren't we always supposed to?
That's true. An asteroid
Mhm.
could hit us any minute,
Yes.
Like a thief in the night. Yeah.
like a thief in the night.
Yep. Yep.
Well,
Always be
I
prepared.
have been voting for sweet meteor death for about like the last three
Yeah.
presidential elections and hasn't worked, but no. I always love that meme. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, absolutely right, Lisa. We should be ready in case something happens because it might not be a meteor. I was just watching a YouTube video today of a lawyer. He's one of the YouTube lawyers who he just had a sudden stroke in his 40s.
Oh,
Oh
geez.
man.
Ooh.
I mean, and he was down and out, and this was like right before Christmas. He had his stroke, and it's only recently he's been able to get out and kind of tell his story more and be able to express what happened. So we need to be ready.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's true. I would say if you tell people you're going to cause a mass panic and more people are going to end up getting hurt because people are going to despair and not care, and you're going to get a lot of
Mhm.
people killing each other. So
Mhm.
I'd probably keep it on the down low and hope for the best.
Especially if SG-1 saves the day. Be like,
That's
right.
just kidding.
Just do the 5-minute. Oh, by the way, you see that big
Yeah.
thing that's coming between us and the sun? Yeah, it's gonna hit. Get well with your God, and we're done.
Nice. Thanks for bringing that up, Victor. That is a good moral
Yeah.
question that this
Yeah,
episode has
and
in it.
I don't know what I would do. Probably say nothing because there's always a hope that SG-1 will come through in the end. And
Yep.
in the fictional universe of Stargate, they always do.
They always
Exactly.
do. Yep.
I get my bagpipes out and play Freebird as the asteroid crashed into Earth. It's a way to go out.
At least it's not Stairway to Heaven on the guitar, because of course
Yeah.
you're not supposed to play that.
No. Wonderwall, just to troll everybody.
Yeah.
Awesome. We do have some feedback on our episode
Excellent.
where we interviewed Joseph Malazzi. Patrick Frame emailed us at our email at stargate@sqpn.com. He said, I'm a fan of the podcast and I regularly enjoy tuning in. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for saying that. We have fun.
Appreciate
here.
it.
Yeah. It was a treat to listen to the latest episode wherein y'all interview Mr. Malazzi. I appreciated the questions y'all chose to ask him, especially Lisa's. But there was one very important question that y'all neglected to ask, and that is, who are the Furlings? This has been my biggest point of contention with the show's mythology. I was hoping to get some closure, but maybe that will never come. In all seriousness, thanks for
Yeah.
all you do. It's fun to relive moments from my family's favorite TV show.
Yeah.
We
Well, thanks,
did
Patrick.
ask, but he ordered us to cut it out.
Right.
No,
Yes.
no, we didn't.
The truth
That was
is too
redacted.
shocking.
That would have
Yeah.
been a really fun question. That would have
Oh,
been good.
you know what we should have done? We should have set it up where we ask him and he says he's got a picture of it, and then you have it like the video cut out at the very end,
Oh.
Victor.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that'd be
Technical
funny.
error.
And before we go,
Yeah. But no, it's a shocking thing involving Linnea, the Unas, and I think the renegade faction of the Nox. So we can't talk about it.
Someone's gonna
You're
pick
giving
that
me
up.
nightmares
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. We also got some feedback on Twitter from our episode. CTRot35. I always have a hard time reading the handles phonetically. Says,
It's French.
great.
It's Citro.
Oh, thank you. Thank you
That's
for
a
the
car.
pronunciation.
Yeah.
Says, great interview. I like the Christian viewpoint that Father brought to the table, pointing out the morality of SG. The balance SG-1 achieved from a moral standpoint was great, not overly/overtly moralistic and not immoral/licentious in the other direction. We need more of that. And I definitely agree. I think that's one of the things we want to do is we want to put that spin on the show because there's tons and tons of podcasts about science fiction shows, and I think we definitely bring something unique to the table.
Yeah.
Awesome. Before we go, we'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create The Secrets of Stargate, including Michael M., Kim L., Michael S., Gwen M., and Mary N. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue The Secrets of Stargate and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give And be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or on the SQPN YouTube channel. And to find previous episodes of Secrets of Stargate and to send feedback, please visit sqpn.com/Stargate, and you can email us at stargate@sqpn.com, or follow StarQuest on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia and on Twitter at SQPN. And be sure to check out our Discord at sqpn.com/Discord. And we'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the next episode of SG-1, The Warrior. Until then, Father Cory, thank you for joining us and sharing the secrets of Stargate.
Thank you, Jack.
And Lisa Jones, thank you as well.
Thanks, Jack.
And Victor Lambs, thank you too.
Thanks, Jack. And we came, we saw, we planted the bomb, we had a little fun with a meteor shower, we went home. It's a great story, isn't it?
Word up, yo.
Yeah.
And once again, I'm Jack Baruzzini. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Stargate on StarQuest.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but that just happens to be how I feel about it. What do you think?